What's going on, everybody? Zach back here with another episode of Clutch Crew Sports. And on today's episode, we've got a fun episode planned ahead for you guys. It's going to be something new we haven't done before. We're bringing up some this or that type of questions. So we're going to have the majority of these questions are going to be NFL players that the four of us are going to have to pick from. So it should be a lot of fun. Hopefully, you guys enjoy and let us know who you would pick as well if you haven't already voted in that Twitter poll from a couple days ago. Now let me introduce you to the rest of the crew.
What's up, guys? It's Connor, the co-host with the most, and I'm excited to debate to see what these guys' opinions are on these NFL players, because we didn't consult or talk about this beforehand, so this is all going to be hearing this on the spot, so I'm very excited.
What's going on, guys? This is Eric, your ranting co-host. And while I'm not going to say who I have for any of these picks just yet, there is a particular topic that I may rant about when we get to it. So we'll see.
Whoa!
that took me by surprise. And Connor.
Dude, like Connor said, this is unscripted. We did not plan any of this, so nobody knows. But you'll see. You'll see.
All right, and then what's up, guys? It's Nate here. I'm excited to see these guys' opinions about the players we got here on this list.
Yeah, I still can't get over your Jeopardy photo.
Yeah, that's still something, man.
Still enjoying having that up while until we get to the next round.
Yeah, but say, when's the next Sports Jeopardy round? Like 3 weeks from now?
It's in a couple weeks. So we'll see. But yeah, so like I said before, this is going to be a this or that type of episode. And if you are watching on YouTube, you can see the first third of the players that we're going to pit against each other. So all the players we're pitting against each other, they're same position. We're not comparing an offensive lineman to a quarterback or anything like that. Same position or relatively same age and accomplishments and such. So it's going to make for some interesting little debates. And we did actually run a Twitter poll for all of these topics a couple days ago. A lot of people voted on that. So once we share our opinions, we'll quickly look at the Twitter poll and see if we are mostly in agreement with the Twitter users or not for whatever reason. So it should be fun. So let's get this thing started, guys. Let's go ahead and start this. So we've organized a way that we're going to read off what side we're on, because we don't want to all just blurt out the same person or different people, and then it'll be like, huh? Then we'll all wait to say it again, and I'll say it at the same time. So I'll start us off here, guys, on this
I like
first
your
one.
description there.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. It's like sometimes at four-way intersections with cars that get there at the exact same time.
Lord. Don't even get me started on that. See, I'm of the opinion that when I get to a four-way stop and nobody else is moving, I'm just going to go, even if I have right of way or not. If y'all are just going to sit there, I'm going.
Yeah. I'm one of those people that if it's the same time, like I tend to just like wait for them to go, but then they're also doing the same for me. So then we both seem to start at the same time. Yeah, it's always a mess. But I mean, when you're going at that low speed, nothing's really gonna happen. But yeah. So we'll start it off with the first group: Carson Wentz versus Dak Prescott. I am gonna be Team Prescott.
Team Prescott.
Team Prescott.
Nate.
Oh, I don't.
Nate's keeping us waiting.
Very suspenseful.
The suspense is mounting.
Oh boy, sorry, I was muted there. Team Wentz.
Oh, okay. So it's a 3-1, Prescott and Wentz. We'll let majority talk first for all these. So I'll say a quick thing or two, and then I'll let Eric and Connor say a quick thing or two in that order. Yeah, I like Dak better for the number of seasons that these two people have played in.
People.
Quarterbacks, whatever. It seems like Dak has had more success for longer periods of time. Wentz had that MVP type of season, but ever since then, he's always been injured. Hasn't really been there as often as Dak has, and Dak has put up some pretty good numbers as well. What other things do you have to say about Dak?
Yeah, the reason why I chose Dak over Wentz. This was probably one of the toughest ones for me to decide in terms of the talent because they are pretty equal, I think. But the main reason why I'm picking Dak is because it just seems like Carson Wentz gets hurt all the time. And when you're not available, that really hurts the team. And Dak has done a good job, even though he's a more of a mobile quarterback, he's done a pretty good job avoiding injury and being able to play. So I chose Dak for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, well, I will say I do think both of these quarterbacks are highly overrated. Dak is just slightly less overrated than Carson Wentz, I think. Because I remember going into last season, I know Zach and Nate both had Carson Wentz winning the MVP. So, and I think that Dak has just kind of stepped up a bit more than Wentz, even though both of their teams don't do very well. Like you guys said, Carson Wentz has just been getting hurt way too often, and he's never been able to recreate the magic from that MVP season and when he tore his ACL. So, and I think the main thing for Dak is that he just the Cowboys just need to win more, because if you look at his stats, they're actually not that bad. I mean, like, I still think he's overrated, but he's definitely not as bad as some people like to think he is. Some people like, oh, Dak Prescott's garbage. Like, he's not garbage, but he's also not worth $40 million.
So, all right, Nate, why are you with Team Wentz?
I mean, I would take Wentz just because I think I agree with Connor. I think both these guys are a little bit overrated, but I think Dak is more so just because when you look at the talent they have around them, I think Dak just benefits from a great offensive line. He's had his whole career, plus he's throwing to Amari Cooper for the past year and a half. He's throwing to Michael Gallup. He's got, I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but he's got CeeDee Lamb coming there, whereas in Philadelphia, like, the best receiver Wentz has been Alshon Jeffrey in the past 3 years. Washed up kind of Alshon Jeffrey, and I mean, I think if he had the talent that Dak has, I think he would definitely put up similar stats. I think his team would be a more of a playoff threat. So I think injury is really the only knock I can think of against him, and obviously it's not totally his control. But I think like consistency and ability to step up in the big moments, I would give Wentz the edge in that area.
All right. Good stuff there. The next debate is going to be Tom Brady versus Drew Brees. So I'll start. I'm going to be on Team Tom Brady.
Team Breeze.
Team Breeze.
Yeah, I got to go Team Brady.
Okay.
Shocker there.
Yeah.
Big shocker.
That would have been the shock of the century if Nate had not said Tom Brady right there.
Yeah. So for two reasons, kind of, I've got Brady over Breeze here, and one is going to be kind of like with Nate was talking about with Wentz. Brady just hasn't really had the weapons. I know Gronk, arguably best tight end of all time, but aside from that, and Randy Moss way earlier in his career, the past couple seasons, I don't think Brady's had a great supporting cast around him. Whereas Breeze has Michael Thomas and all those, he's got Kamara, all those guys flying around in that offense with Sean Payton. It's really offense tailored to putting up great stats, which Breeze wins in the stats, but Brady wins in the postseason, which is what really matters. It seems like Breeze, the last couple of postseasons, has had some pitfalls, some not his fault, but others have been his fault. So when it comes to playoff time, which is what really matters, I trust Brady a lot more than I trust Breeze. So Nate, you can.
Oh, okay, we're going the same teams.
Yeah.
We'll basically, everything you said, and I mean, obviously we all know how Brady's been in the postseason. That's obviously well documented. The other thing I'd go is that Breeze has played in a dome his whole career, which, I mean, like Zach said, he's been in a much more offensively suited situation, kind of like Peyton Manning's in the same boat there. They're well primed to put up huge numbers, whereas Brady hasn't always had that luxury. I think he's going to go to Tampa, and as much as I hate to see it, I think he's going to have a ridiculous season even at 43 years old.
Yeah, so if this had been like a year or two ago, I would definitely pick Brady for sure, but I just feel like Brady really regressed last year, and that would worry me going forward. Whereas while Breeze has had his issues in the playoffs the last couple years, he seems to be more consistent throughout the whole season, still even at his age. So if I was going like on an all-time base, or even like I said, just recently as a year or two ago, Brady would be my guy. But if I was starting a franchise right now and I could get one of these two guys to be my starting quarterback, I would take Drew Brees, because just in the moment right now, I trust him more than I do with Brady.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as Eric, that obviously if you were looking at all-time, stats and everything, Brady would be, above Drew Brees. But you also mentioned that, Tom Brady hasn't exactly had the weapons that Drew Brees has. Well, I would argue that Brady has had the one weapon that supersedes everything, and that's Bill Belichick at his disposal. I think Bill Belichick supersedes Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara and all that, having a head coach that is the greatest head coach of all time. So, but yeah, like Eric, I trust Drew Brees more. Brady had a pretty mediocre season last year, and obviously he didn't have Gronk, but he still had Edelman to throw to, his main guy, and he still had Belichick calling the plays and that number one defense. And even with all of that, the Patriots were out in the wild card round. So, and obviously Brees got hurt, but he came back just as strong as ever. So I would definitely trust Drew Brees, and especially since Brady's going into a new system and a new team this year, I would be pretty wary of him compared to Drew Brees.
Yeah. Let's just say for this subject, prepare for some longer future debates when we discuss Tampa versus New Orleans in the future. I won't spoil anything, but you can probably tell where we lean on that. Moving on now.
You're probably going to know who the arguments between. You forgot to do the Twitter poll, by the way.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, man. Good. Thanks for reminding me. So for our first one, Dak and Wentz. Wentz actually had the edge with 52 votes. This is the most voted poll. 53% to 46%, almost 54% for Wentz. Close vote, but Wentz got the nod, even though it was a 3-1 Dak in our podcast. And Brady, slightly over Brees here. I'm wondering, people don't know they might be thinking all time as well. So that might be why Brady had more. But yeah, this is for current and upcoming future success. So. Maybe I should have done a better job wording that question in the polls, but oh well. So the next set of quarterbacks to discuss is going to be Pat Mahomes versus Deshaun Watson, and I'm going to be Team Watson.
Team Mahomes.
Team Mahomes.
Team Mahomes.
Yeah, so I figured I'd be the lone wolf for Watson here. Really, when it comes down to this, it's just the fact that Mahomes has had a great, terrific cast of wide receivers and tight ends at his disposal, along with Andy Reid. I believe if Deshaun Watson, I think Deshaun Watson's a tougher quarterback. I think he's a more mobile quarterback. You saw that play against the Bills in the playoffs where I don't know how he wasn't sacked, but I've seen him do that multiple times. I got highlighted in the playoff game, but I think when it comes down to it, Watson also has, I think, a greater winning intangibles with him. You saw it at Clemson, and he's really being brought down by Bill O'Brien, honestly, with the Texans. If you replace Watson with Andy Reid in Kansas City and all the weapons they have, I think he would end up doing better than Mahomes, actually. So that's why I've got Watson over Mahomes. Obviously, Mahomes has the better numbers and everything, but Watson's just being hampered by his team too much, in my opinion.
Well, I'm sure that you and Eric aren't going to complain about that.
Yeah. I mean, let Bill O'Brien can be Houston's coach and GM forever, like until he dies.
Yeah, coach and GM.
I'd be fine with that. Let him even be the owner. Like the owner can just tell the team. That'd be great. But no, I'm picking Mahomes because I just feel like I have to disagree a little bit in terms of while I don't disagree with the coaching. Obviously, Andy Reid is a way better coach. But in terms of the weapons, I mean, Deshaun Watson, I mean, obviously he doesn't have them anymore, but he had DeAndre Hopkins. He had Will Fuller. He had
Lamar Miller.
And honestly, I think the Texans defense is also better than the Chiefs defense as well. So at least, I mean, when JJ Watt's healthy anyway, but I feel like the supporting cast argument isn't the greatest argument because I feel like their supporting cast isn't really that too far apart, other than the tight end position. Like Deshaun Watson obviously has never had a Travis Kelce to throw to, but Mahomes also makes those similar plays where it's like, how did he not get sacked, or how did he thread that one into the perfect spot in double coverage, or how did he's just as good, if not better, than making those unbelievable how did that happen play as Deshaun Watson is. So, I mean, obviously you would love to have either of these guys on your team, but Mahomes is just at an all-time level right now, and he's won MVP. Like I don't see, he's the best quarterback in my opinion. None of these people would. If it could be him against any of these other guys, and I would pick him. Like, he's number one in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would go that far to say that he's the number one quarterback right now, because obviously he's still very young and the wheels could easily come off. But I do agree that I don't see that happening. I mean, even if Andy Reid were to retire right now, and if Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce were to go to another team, I think Mahomes could thrive in just about any system. Just the way I've seen him play. I mean, he's got that combination of decision making, and he's got a ridiculous arm. And I mean, obviously Deshaun Watson's the more mobile of the two, but Mahomes is mobile too. I mean, we saw it in that playoff game against the Titans. He made a lot of plays with his legs. So I would, and also like Eric said, Mahomes has won an MVP. He's won a Super Bowl, which obviously Super Bowl isn't all Mahomes, but he still won a Super Bowl. And the other thing with Mahomes too is that I don't think we've seen anybody have as ridiculous of a season as Mahomes had in his first full year as a starter, because he wasn't technically a rookie when he won the MVP, but he was basically a rookie because he only played one game in his rookie season, and that was a throwaway like week 17 game that they just didn't want Alex Smith to get hurt. So I think, and so basically in his rookie season, he came out and had the greatest season, like one of the greatest seasons of all time, and won the MVP. So I can only see good things for Mahomes ahead, and who knows? Maybe if those Deshaun Watson to New England rumors are true, he can start to, build a legacy for himself. But I just don't see him going any further in Houston.
Yeah, so I'm glad that Zach, you said what you said about Watson, because I do think that the gap between him and Mahomes is a lot smaller than people may think. I think he's definitely undervalued because of the scheme he has had to deal with his career. But I still have to go with Mahomes here because he reminds me a lot of Aaron Rodgers, where just its physical abilities combined with he does make really good decisions. He could go in I think. I agree that if you put Watson in Kansas City, he could definitely go for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. But we've seen how he's struggled in Houston. Whereas I think if you put Mahomes in Houston or anywhere else in the league, I think he could still go and put up better stats. Kind of like how Aaron Rodgers hasn't had good receivers in 5 years, and he still put up pretty good stats. I think Mahomes is in that kind of territory there. So definitely not a huge gap for me. I definitely, my heart wanted to go Watson here, but I still got to go with Mahomes just because the resume he already has.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he won the Twitter poll by quite a bit. Yeah, 85% to 15%. And one of those 13 votes for Watson was me, to be honest. All right, so we'll move to the next one now. Going down the rankings in stature here for these quarterbacks, but Kirk Cousins versus Jimmy G, two I think kind of averagely rated quarterbacks, slightly above maybe. I'm gonna go Team Jimmy G.
Team Jimmy G.
This is honestly one of my tougher ones. I think I'm gonna go Team Jimmy G.
I have to pick one of them. I'm just gonna go Team Kirk to be different.
Okay. You heard it here, folks. Just to be different.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think this is very close. An advantage for Jimmy G is he's younger, and with that comes we don't know how good he can potentially get. Whereas with Kirk Cousins, we know his ceiling. His ceiling is basically a divisional round playoff type of quarterback.
Mediocre.
He'll have good games. He'll have bad games. He's had weapons though, so you can't say, oh, he's played in a terrible offense on a terrible team. So we can't give him that benefit of the doubt. Jimmy G definitely got brought along to the Super Bowl this year, but still, at least he was the quarterback for that team. They did make it to the Super Bowl, and he's got more chances to prove himself, whereas Kirk, we kind of know what we got with Kirk. So that's why I'm going Jimmy G.
Yeah, my main reason for picking Jimmy G is because of the weapons thing. I mean, the fact that Kirk Cousins in past years has had Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Kyle Rudolph, and Dalvin Cook to all get the football too, and they still ended up as the 6th seed, barely scraping by in the playoffs. And then, I mean, I give him credit for like finally winning a prime time in a playoff game this year, but for the longest time, it just seemed like he buckled under the pressure when the spotlight was on. And obviously, that's not what you want in a quarterback if you're trying to win a Super Bowl. Whereas Jimmy G, while the 49ers run game was beast, he didn't have the greatest of weapons to throw to other than Kittle last year. So I think if you would put Jimmy G on the Vikings last year, maybe the Vikings get to the Super Bowl instead. Whereas if you put Kirk Cousins on the 49ers, they weren't going to get in the Super Bowl. So I don't know. I mean, and we witnessed Kirk Cousins like almost miss the thing from 3 feet away at his baby gender reveal. So even though Jimmy G's not the greatest quarterback, I would take him over Kirk Cousins for sure.
I mean, to piggyback off of what Eric said, if Kirk Cousins was on the 49ers this year, I don't think they would have they might have made the playoffs, but they probably wouldn't have gotten past the wild card round, in my opinion, if he was in that position. Because, I mean, the guy is, what is he, like 0-8 on Monday Night Football in his
something
career?
like that.
Something ridiculous like that. And like you said, he finally managed to win a playoff game, but honestly, that probably wasn't all attributed to him. So, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Jimmy G either, but like you guys said, we already know Kirk Cousins. Who knows what Jimmy G could turn into? So it's more of a optimism pick when it comes to Jimmy G, just because I already know that Kirk Cousins is pretty mediocre and average. So, and he's kind of turning into the new Andy Dalton of the league, where it's like, if you're better than him, then you're a good quarterback, but if you're worse than him, then you're a pretty bad quarterback.
All right, Nate, do you want to change your pick after anything, or are you just gonna stick with it?
No, I think I'm gonna still stick with it. I think, like I said, like both these guys to me are just like really overpaid game managers, and I think Jimmy G gets the benefit of the doubt for being a like quote young quarterback, but I just looked and he's still 28. He's only 3 years younger than Kirk, which like granted he's had less time as a starter with being in New England and all that, but I think I don't know, he basically got that huge deal off of, 3 games or really 2.5 games in New England and then 5 games with the Niners after he got traded. And I was just watching him last year. He really underwhelmed me in some of the big moments. Like, not that San Francisco has the greatest weapons, but he's got, George Kittle. He had Marquise Goodwin last year, Emmanuel Sanders. So I don't know. I think both these guys are game managers, and I think Kirk is at least efficient. He knows like what his role is, and
Know your role and shut your mouth.
like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, he gets the ball to Dalvin Cook, does what he's supposed to, and Jimmy G, like, people want to make him a star, and he just isn't that. So I'm gonna give Kirk the slight edge, even though I would not want either of these guys to be quarterback for my team.
I will say, I'm a bit surprised Nate didn't pick Jimmy G, being that he's a former Patriots player.
I mean, I don't dislike him, but I definitely think he's overrated after, people just go back to 2014 when he did, and it's been 5 years.
All right, moving on now. We've got Aaron Rodgers
What was
versus
the Twitter poll?
Oh, yeah, man. You just got to keep reminding me on that. This should be interesting. So Cousins actually got the win on the Twitter poll, 70% to 30% basically. So that's pretty surprising compared to our answers. The next set, though, is going to be Russell Wilson versus Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to be team Russell Wilson.
Team Russell Wilson.
Team Russell Wilson.
Team Russell.
All right, yeah. So we got unanimous pick here. We won't spend too much long, but Wilson, he's younger, he's more mobile, he's had more success, I think, in the playoffs than Rodgers has had, and he's honestly a much better leader and personality than Rodgers is as well. Those are the things and also he's really underrated. He's never been considered for an MVP, but for this past decade, he's been one of the best quarterbacks for sure. And Rodgers, while he lives in glory with a lot of people with the name, if you look at his stats, they actually have been getting worse and worse. And I know Packers fans don't want to hear it, but
sorry,
just like they did, yeah, just like they didn't want to hear that they were going to get blown out by San Francisco. Aaron Rodgers is going to get blown out by Russell Wilson if these two went head to head. So. I'm Team Russ all day.
I forgot to mention someone else. I said sorry, Kyle, but also sorry, Natasha, if you listen to this, because she's a Packers fan too.
Yeah, she is too. So I guess you guys can just pile on if you want to.
If any Packers fans still listen to this show, though, I have to give you a shout out for sticking around, because it seems like the Packers get bashed on the show.
They do.
I'm not as big as a Packers hater as some of these other guys on here, but with this,
I'm not.
I'm not a hater, but
I'm not a hater either. But I don't know.
It seems like
it seems like you kind of are, Zach.
Yeah, mainly Zach, but still, like, it seems like the Packers get bashed a lot in these shows.
I promise you, I'm not a hater, but
yeah,
I root for them when they play Dallas every time.
Yeah, I think everyone does.
Well, I will say, if I'm going to add something really quick on something about Russell Wilson, he's actually really proved me wrong, because ever since Marshawn Lynch and the Legion of Boom kind of got broken up and left Seattle, he's really made a believer out of me, because I didn't really believe in him before then, because I was like, oh, well, which I think was true to a certain extent, that he kind of got carried by the run game and the defense, but he's really managed to step up since that all went away. And so, like you said, he was in consideration for MVP this year until Lamar Jackson just started blowing it up, but he's really made a believer out of me and proven me wrong.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else wants to say anything, but we'll check the Twitter poll here.
Yeah, he is kind of touched on it. I mean, he does, I think, the most with the least out of anyone in the NFL the last couple of years. And
yeah, it seems like Seattle always has a terrible line.
Well, yeah, there was I don't know, it wasn't this season, but it was the season before when everybody thought that they were going to tank, and they still made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Wilson won the poll in a landslide, 83 to 17%, backing up what we believe on Twitter. Good job, guys. The next one is going to be Cam versus Jameis, the former number 1 overall picks, the former Heisman winners, the former college national champions. The similarities are there. I'm going to go with Team Jameis Winston.
Shocker there.
Team Cam.
I'm going to go Team Cam.
Just to clarify, this is who you'd rather have right now or just better in general?
Right now and moving forward.
Right now, moving forward, I would go Team Jameis.
Okay. So I'm gonna say why I think Jameis is gonna be better. Cam, he's not even on a team right now. I think that's kind of because of his personality a little bit. Jameis, he's weird. He's got some off the field things. He's got that weird thing where he eats the W or whatever. But both these guys are kind of weird. But with Jameis, I think the thing with Jameis is he's got to go to a really good coach or a really good offensive coordinator, somebody to help him limit his interceptions, because he does have so many dumb interceptions. But if you take away from the dumb interceptions, he throws some really nice passes. He's always at the top of the leaderboard with stats and everything, because he does make a lot of really good plays. It's just you can't make those plays and expect to win all the time when you make all the bad plays he makes. Whereas Cam has been injured all the time. I don't even know if he's going to be healthy enough to play. So I'm going Jameis moving forward. I know he's healthy. I don't know what Cam's going to be healthy-wise. And Jameis, he can improve, I believe.
Yeah, that's why I asked to clarify because if you're
Yeah.
talking entire career, like Cam, I would go with him by a long slide or
Yeah.
landslide or whatever. But right now I would definitely take James just because I think his upside, he still has a lot of upside. Bruce Arians is a great offensive coach. He had great weapons in Tampa, but he obviously needs to, clean things up a little bit. Obviously, both on and off the field. But he went to I think the perfect team to do it, the Saints. Um, he gets to sit with Drew Brees in quarterback meetings for the next year. So with Sean Payton, and hopefully, I mean, sounds like the plan is that if Brees does retire, he would take over there, and he walks into a situation with Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. And I think if he obviously all he has to do is clean up the interceptions, just don't throw 30 in a year, and he's taking that team to the playoffs. So I got to go with him in this situation.
So I'm picking Cam. I mean, obviously, like you guys said, I mean, he's not on a team right now, and who knows what's going to happen going forward. But if I was starting a team right now, and I had to, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't prefer either of these as my choices. But if they were like, okay, you can have Jameis Winston or Cam Newton to start your team, I would take Cam Newton because with the Jameis Winston and like all this interception stuff. I went through this as a Jaguars fan year after year with Blake Bortles. This year he's working out with this quarterback guru, and then this year he's working on his form with some expert guy, and he's gonna come back better
In
and
LA.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he obviously hasn't done anything there, but I mean, I heard this, and Blake Bortles was an interception machine. Obviously, Zach and I have witnessed pretty much all of his interceptions, and with Jameis, it's like he's had plenty of time to clean this up. He's had plenty of great weapons to throw the ball to, especially Mike Evans. I mean, Tampa has overall one of the, top offenses in the NFL right now. And whereas Cam, I mean, he has the injury prone bug, which is a problem. But if they're both healthy and playing, I'd rather have the quarterback that's going to make the less mistakes. And Cam is mobile, but both of their personalities are weird, though. So I wouldn't prefer to have either of them. But if I was going to pick one going forward, give me Cam.
Yeah. Well, I will say I think that's probably because both of them are kind of dumb as a bag of hammers. But but the thing about I agree with Eric. I would rather have Cam Newton. I mean, I think the one thing for Cam is that I think he's going to have to accept the fact that in the future he's going to have to maybe transition into more, because I can definitely think he can be more of a game manager at this point, because he's definitely mobile. He can do that, but he's going to have to realize that especially depending on where he goes, that he won't have to put up the huge stats that he did in the past, and he doesn't have to take as many risks. If you can get him to stop taking as many risks with his legs, then I think Cam Newton could be great again. And the thing about Winston, like Eric said, he's had plenty of time. When you're in your 5th season in the NFL and you're still throwing 30 interceptions a season, that's not good. That's something that, unfortunately, it shows that it's probably never going to get fixed. Because, if you see like a rookie or a second-year guy throwing, 30 interceptions, okay, there's time to work on that. But when you're in your 5th season and you're still doing it, it's kind of an unfixable issue at that point, in my opinion. So I would definitely have to go with Cam Newton. And I don't think he's unemployed right now, but by the time the season starts, he'll be on a team.
Yeah, so let's check Twitter poll for that one. I remember this time. And Cam won with a overwhelming majority, 82% to 18%. Wow. So, Nate just let wow out there.
Thank you, Twitter, for finally agreeing with me on one besides Patrick Mahomes. Thank you, Twitter. Finally.
All right. So now this question's not football related, but guys, how do you feel about coffee and tea? Two staple drinks in America, and they're both pretty versatile. Hot or cold, can go either way. But for me, I'm team coffee.
Team Coke.
Hey now. All right, so Eric's gonna excuse himself from this one.
I'd have to go coffee. Team Coke.
I go coffee on this one too.
Yeah, so I don't really know how to explain it, but coffee is really good, guys. I drink it every day, basically. Uh, Eric, just go ahead. Just tell us. I know you don't.
This was my rant.
Is
I
this
mean,
the rant?
I
Okay.
hate both of these. I mean, I hate both of these beverages with like every passion and fiber in my being. Like, there's the Florida Gators, the Tennessee Titans, and then there's coffee and tea. Okay, like with my hatred list. Like, this was my like
The Alabama Crimson Tide, you know.
Yeah, dude, I can't stand both of these beverages. I mean, I don't know why. It's just a personal thing. And then I guess what drives me nuts too with both of these beverages is when I tell people I don't like them, they're like, well, you ever try putting cream and sugar in the coffee? Yeah, I still don't like it. Or do you like sweet tea or tea with lemon or hot tea? Like, I'm like, no, I don't like any of this. I don't care how you put it. I don't like it. I just don't.
I don't care if you throw 3 dashes of Mountain Dew and maybe some Coke in there. It's still gonna taste horrible.
I just don't like it. Like people try to like convince me that I like it. I'm like, no, I don't like it. I don't know why. It drives me nuts. And the people are just so shocked when I don't like it. Like it's just my personal preference. Leave me alone. You know? Like, I don't get why people are like try to convince me to like coffee or tea so much, especially with tea. With me being in the South, like it's
trust me, I hear that all the time.
Everybody in the South loves sweet tea except for me, apparently.
And me too, because it's gross.
Thank you, Connor. But people are just like, I don't like. How do you not like sweet tea? Or like,
it's gross.
I'm a little bit shocked by that too, Eric, because you know I know your mom, and she's a huge fan of sweet tea. I always see her drinking that, so I assumed you would like that.
Well, it's crazy because my dad will drink unsweet tea. My mom she does it like half and half now, but yeah, she likes some sugar in it. And then my dad loves coffee, so like I don't know how I don't like either of these drinks. But man, I just can't stand them.
No, I mean, I know my parents all across the board all drink unsweet tea if they're going to drink it. But it's like, I went to Bojangles one time and like, I've never ordered their tea, but one of my friends, he got like this large sweet tea and he's like, oh, like, trust me, try it. You're going to love it. And I just took a sip of it and it just tasted like pure sugar with like pure sugar mixed with tea flavor, and I was just like, this is absolutely disgusting. I don't know how anybody could like this.
There's my rant. There's my rant for the night, guys.
Okay, you good, man, you good. When it comes to sweet tea, like I don't know, I'm in moderation. I don't mind it, but like it's not my favorite. But I don't despise it like you guys do. But Nate, is this a easy one for you, or you kind of torn with this?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I don't know. I've tried tea a bunch of times. Like it just doesn't have a whole lot of flavor to me. I like coffee for sure. Sweet tea I'll definitely drink at like a restaurant or whatever. It's a pretty solid option, but definitely gotta go coffee if I had to choose.
Not a solid option. Not a solid.
The all-important Twitter poll question. Let's see where it is. Okay, coffee
It looks like there's a comment on that one.
Oh, yeah, I think there is. Let me see. Whoa. Eric, why did you leave that comment?
Nice.
Eric,
I forgot I used that word, but still, you know. At least I kept it clean for the podcast. Oh, yeah, I mean, who's CCS co-host? Who's that guy?
Yeah, we don't know that guy.
Got some crazy followers.
What? Jaguars logo? Ew.
Okay.
The Jaguars logo was good.
All right, moving on. Now we're gonna stay with the offense, but go to some skill position type of guys. So the two best tight ends in the game, Kelsey and Kittle, the double K's here. I'm going Team Kittle.
Team Kittle. Forgive me, Susan.
Susan's boyfriend. Yeah, this was definitely this was definitely another tough one for me, but I'm gonna go Team Kelsey.
Team Kittle by a whole lot.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Nate, why don't you start us off then?
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I just have never been a fan of Kelsey's. I know he's incredible with the ball in his hands. Obviously, he plays in a great system with a great quarterback, and I mean, he definitely deserves credit. He's definitely been a top 3 tight end his whole career. But I think I gotta go with Kelsey here. With Kittle here, just because I think he's the closest thing we're gonna see to Gronk for many years. Just in terms of like, you look at His receiving numbers have been insane the past few years. I think he's has statistically one of the greatest starts to a career ever by a tight end. And then what he does in the blocking game, like he's so similar to Gronk in that he makes the Kansas City offense kind of go, and that they can do a whole lot more like outside runs because they've got a guy like him out there like setting the edge and all of that. So I think all around he's huge in that regards, whereas Kelsey definitely is. That's been a noted like weakness of his game. So I think I think I gotta go Kittle here for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I went Kittle as well. It's pretty close for me though. I'm not as extreme as Nate is, but really the big separator for these two, I think, is blocking. They're relatively as well receiving threats, but Kittle's the much better blocker. And personal note here with him, I'm still mad. Like 2 years ago or something, I dropped him for my fantasy team after one bad week. When he was a rookie or unknown guy, nobody knew him at the time.
See, well, that's what I did with Todd Gurley in his rookie season. I dropped him from my team, and that cost me.
Yeah, so I'm still mad about that. But Eric, what else do you have to say about Kittle, and then we'll hear Kelsey's side.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with you and Connor, where it's really close for me.
You mean Nate?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. You said really close. I thought you were saying you were in the same boat as them with Kittle.
No, I just meant I'm in the same boat with you and Zach in the sense that like it's a close pick for me. It's like I'm not as like far apart like how Nate it was a easy choice for him. This was one where I had to really think about it for a while, but I agree with Zach in terms of I like Kittle as a blocker better. I like that him and a lot of those other 49ers receivers were selfless and enjoyed blocking for the running game and stuff like that. That's something you just don't really see in the NFL. Kelsey's also not he's a good blocker himself, but Kittle is an amazing blocker. And I guess the main thing that separates them for me, though, since they're so close in talent, but what separates them for me is that Kittle's also a lot younger, and he'll be from this point going forward, he's going to be a lot more valuable for a team long term from this point on. So again, doing the whole starting a franchise thing, I would want him because of that over Kelsey, but obviously can't go wrong. And again, sorry, Susan, I'm so sorry. Don't be mad.
You have to sleep on the couch tonight.
Yeah, whenever she listens to this, I'll probably be on the couch. But
no, I mean, I decided, I guess, to be the different one with Travis Kelce. I mean, I think obviously Kittle's a better blocker, but I think Kelce catches a lot of crap for his blocking, even though it's actually a lot better than people think it is. I know we were looking at Pro Football Focus, and I don't know the exact number, but Kittle was he wasn't ranked as the best blocking tight end, but he was definitely up there. But Kelce wasn't too far behind him. He was 4 places below him or something. So he's still a really good blocker. And I think also the fact that Kelce has been able to shine. He's been able to shine for a long time, and he's been able to shine in a system where there's so many other weapons. Because we see that sometimes where there's a lot of weapons and, you don't necessarily put up the big stats anymore because there's a lot of other people around you. Whereas Kittle's pretty much the only major offensive weapon in San Francisco, whereas there's Tyreek Hill, there was Kareem Hunt, and also the fact that Kelce was able to do it when Alex Smith was throwing to him, not just Patrick Mahomes. So, and obviously Kittle's younger, but Kelce still has a lot of good years in front of him. I mean, at least 3 or 4 good years in front of him. So that's why I'd have to go with Kelce over Kittle.
All right, let's check Twitter here for that one. I think that was pretty close.
I think that was the second closest behind Dak and Wentz.
Yeah. Let's see. Kittle won 58% to 42%, so pretty close there. The next one we've got lined up is Mike Evans versus Tyreek Hill. I'm going to be Team Evans.
This is a tough one for me, but I'm also going to go Team Evans.
This was actually easier for me. I'm going to go Team Evans.
I'm going to be with you guys. I'm going to go Team Evans.
Okay, yeah. So we'll go through this one kind of quickly here, but Evans, to me, he's the thing with him that is a huge advantage is you don't have to worry about the off the field issues. Tyreek Hill has that going
should have been
against
suspended.
him. Yeah, for sure. And another thing with Evans too, he's really underrated. I mean, playing in a smaller market, you get that sometimes, but the start to his career, I believe it's something like he hasn't had less than 1,000-yard receiving season ever. He's one of only a few receivers to start his career with like 6 straight 1K seasons, and he's the ultimate jump ball type receiver, which I think is really good to have in the NFL. You can get a lot of speed guys. You can find fast guys every year in the draft, but and no knock to Tyreek, he's great with the special teams and everything too. But Mike Evans, he's a true wide receiver one on the outside, go up and get it type of guy. So give me Mike Evans. I guess if anyone else wants to comment.
Yeah, I don't really have too much else to add to that.
I guess I would just go along the same lines as Zach. I mean, 6 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and the fact that he is a true number one, whereas I feel like Tyreek Hill is more of a slot guy, just given his speed, and his speed and height. Mm-hmm. And I mean, being really fast is great, but he's never going to win those jump balls. I mean, the only way that he's going to, obviously, to get deep balls, being fast is important, but he's never going to win those one-on-one on the goal line plays, for those fade routes and stuff. And obviously, if he's in coverage, a lot of the times the corners can get the better of him. So whereas Mike Evans is big, he's strong, and he'll win most of the time.
All right, I guess. Okay, Nate, you want to say something?
No, I don't have too much to add. I was going to say that Mike Evans definitely a lot more like Tyreek's is a lot more one-dimensional than Evans, and I think Evans definitely deserves a lot more credit. I think he's going to get a whole lot of it if Brady comes in and does what he's expected to do.
Yeah, so Tyreek Hill, actually, with all that being said, won the Twitter poll slightly, 58% to 42%.
All those Chiefs fans.
Probably.
Chiefs Kingdom.
Yeah, the Chiefs Kingdom out there. All right, this next one's going to be interesting. Zeke Elliott versus Saquon Barkley. I'm going to go Team Zeke.
Another tough one for me, but I'm going to go with Saquon. Sorry, Susan, to get him.
I am also going to go with Saquon.
This is a tough one for me. I'm going to pick who I'd rather have right now, and for me, that would be Saquon.
Okay, so I know Zeke's a couple years older than Saquon, and that means a lot for running backs, but the thing with Saquon is I don't know. I just haven't really seen it from him. Like, I know he's hyped up to be, he's going to be one of the greatest running backs ever and all this stuff. He had a good rookie season, but he didn't have a rookie season that was to the point where it was like, oh my God, this guy is the best running back ever type of thing, which is what he came into the NFL, and those were the expectations. Whereas Zeke when he came into the NFL, he led the league in rushing almost every year, and last year wasn't a great year for him. I think it was because he wasn't in the training camp for the Cowboys that year. He didn't start off the season great, and I think that carried over throughout the season. But it's not like Barkley had any better of a season. He had injuries himself and didn't really look like all that. So I'm going to go Zeke just because I've seen him do it at the highest level, whereas Barkley, I haven't really yet seen him do it. Doesn't mean he can't, but I just trust Zeke more.
Yeah, so I went with Saquon. I mean, obviously, if you're going off the resume, Zeke would be the one you would pick. But the reason why I picked Saquon, like now going forward, is I believe Saquon can do it. But the difference for me is that if you look at the supporting cast that Zeke has had around him during his time in the NFL compared to what Saquon has had so far, it's really not fair to compare the two because Zeke has had an amazing O-line the whole time he's been there. The Giants O-line has been trash. And he's also, while Dak isn't an elite quarterback, he's better than Eli Manning 10 years past his prime and Daniel Jones. I mean, and then Saquon doesn't even really have the receiving threats to potentially take away from the run game. Whereas with Dallas, they've got Amari Cooper, they've got Gallup for the first couple of years. They still had Zeke's career. They still had Jason Witten. So with Dallas, it's like you don't know if they're going to run the ball or pass the ball. What are they going to do? Whereas with the Giants, when they drafted Saquon, it's like, okay, Saquon, you're the whole offense. So teams can game plan around that, whereas they don't really they haven't had to game plan for anybody else against Saquon. So it's kind of hard to compare the two because of that. But I think if Saquon was given a better supporting cast, that he would be doing way better than he's been doing right now.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the same page as Eric. It's kind of like the whole Barry Sanders versus Emmitt Smith argument. Like, the reason why I've always thought that Barry Sanders was a better running back than Emmitt Smith, even though Emmitt Smith's the all-time leader in rushing yards, because Emmitt Smith had that great offensive line and the great supporting cast, whereas Barry Sanders was the entire Detroit Lions team. So, and it's the same situation here. Like what Eric said, Ezekiel Elliott, the Cowboys have always had a fantastic offensive line since he's been there, and that's a big part of being a running back. Like, if you don't have an offensive line, you can have all the talent in the world, and you're not going to go anywhere if your offensive line is garbage. So I give Saquon credit for what he's been able to do, and obviously last year he was injured, but the numbers he put up in his rookie year, I think he had something like over 1,300 rushing yards, which is definitely nothing to sneeze at. I think he was still finished behind Ezekiel Elliott that year, but it was still like second or third in the league, and somehow Baker Mayfield managed to win Rookie of the Year over him or something. Or I can't remember if Saquon won it or not. It was like between him and Mayfield, but I know there was a lot of talk that Mayfield was like going to take it from him, which if he did, then that was dumb. But anyway, yeah, I think Saquon definitely, like Eric said, if the Giants can somehow put together an offensive line, or if he ends up getting like traded somewhere with an offensive line, I think he'd be doing a lot better.
Yeah, I'm in the same page here, like basically what Eric said, but yeah, he's the whole offense pretty much, and he hasn't had the support that Zeke's had. And there's something else I was gonna say, and I'm not thinking of it right now, so I'm just gonna. Basically probably me what you guys said already. So
yeah, and so Saquon did win in the tour poll, 58-42 though, so closer than our decisions. But yeah, we've got some more running backs coming soon. But this next one is probably going to be the toughest for me, because I feel like when these lists come out of best receivers and I rank them, I feel like I flip-flop these people every other day. So right now I'm going to go Team Hopkins.
I love Julio Jones, but Team Hopkins.
Yeah, this one was also a tough one for me. Actually, you mentioned flip-flopping every day. When we voted on the Twitter polls, I actually voted for Julio Jones, but for the episode, I'm going to go Team Hopkins.
Oh, wow.
This is a really hard one. I think I'm gonna have to go Team Hopkins in this one also.
Okay, so really similar, really statistically similar type of receivers. I believe Hopkins is probably a bit younger, which gives him an advantage for moving on in the future and everything. And they're both really talented guys, but the reason I'm going to go Hopkins this time over Julio is just because it seems like Julio's got the stigma where he can never get touchdowns. And I don't know how many Hopkins has had, but it seems like Julio was on a crazy streak where he had a low number of touchdowns for what he should have been compared to his yards. So that's the only reason I could think of.
It's horrible in fantasy life.
Horrible in fantasy, yeah. So that's the only real distinction that I can get between the two to make me lean for Hopkins now. But what about you guys? How close? I'm assuming you think it's as close as I do.
Yeah, it's tough for me, but obviously as a Jags fan, and living near Houston now, like I've seen a good amount of Texans games, and just watching some of these. The main thing that separates it, I guess, for me, like with DeAndre Hopkins compared to any other receiver, is it seems like he never drops the ball, like ever. It's like I remember there was one season. I know it wasn't this past season, but it was either like 2 or 3 seasons ago, and I don't think he had a single drop the whole season. That's just incredible. Even as great as Julio is, he drops one every now and then, but like DeAndre Hopkins, like not dropping a single pass in a season, and he gets targeted a lot. He's had plenty of stretches where he's basically a majority of the Texans' offense. So, and even some of the catches he gets in double coverage or one-handed catches, like it's crazy. But I will say, in Julio, even though I didn't pick Julio, in his defense, I do, at least over the last couple years, I do blame a lot of his not getting touchdowns on on Steve Sarkisian, the offensive coordinator for Atlanta. Like watching Falcons games, especially like I've seen them when they play in primetime games, it just baffles me when it's like first and goal on the 3 and they don't try to throw up a fade to Julio not once. I'm like, why? He's like 6'4", kind of like Mike Evans type of receiver that we talked about earlier. Like he can get the 50-50 balls. Like, why are you not trying that? I don't know. Like Steve Sarkisian blows my mind, and the Jaguars better not ever hire him.
Well, to piggyback off of Eric's point about Steve Sarkisian, to piggyback off of his point about Steve Sarkisian, yeah, right. But to piggyback off his point about Steve Sarkisian, like, even if I'm going to draw, you mentioned comparing Julio Jones to Mike Evans, but like I compare him to Calvin Johnson almost, because that's what the Detroit Lions used to do. I mean, Stafford would just throw it up to Calvin Johnson and then, boom, touchdown. Like, why don't you ever do that for Julio Jones? And so I think also I give a slighter edge to DeAndre Hopkins just because of the numbers that he had been able to put up with absolutely mediocre quarterbacks for most of his career in Houston. I mean, obviously now he's got Deshaun Watson, but not anymore because he got traded to Arizona for some dumb reason. But but
hello, Brian.
But the numbers that he still put up when he had like Brian Hoyer and Brock Osweiler throwing it to him, like he still put up these major numbers. So I give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I've got to go Hopkins just because the Steve Sarkisian obviously is not a great offensive coordinator, but the Falcons have definitely been an offensive-minded team, and they were better in that regard before the last few years. So I think the start of his career was a lot better, whereas Hopkins, had to deal with like guys like Matt Schaub and Tom Savage.
Matt Schaub was actually good for 1 year.
He was good for one year, but yeah, but he had to deal with those guys before Watson finally showed up, and even then Watson missed like 3/4 of his rookie year, I think, with that ACL injury. So I mean, he's had basically 2 years of Watson. So yeah, I gotta give him the edge there. Although that was a really hard one. That's probably the hardest one I've had to decide on so far.
Yeah, so Julio actually won the Twitter poll 64-30. So that was interesting that all four of us took it was interesting. All four of us thought it was really close, but we all went with the same guy. So maybe it wasn't as close as we thought. But moving forward now, we've got some more running backs here, the last of the running back pairs. So CMC or Derrick Henry. I'm going to go team CMC.
Team CMC.
CMC.
Yeah, so I figured this would probably be more. I figured you'd all say CMC. The thing with Henry is he's got to do it for longer, and also his play style worries me with the injury concern. Any running back can get injured at any time, but with CMC too, his receiving capabilities are far superior to Henry, so he's more versatile in the offense. It counts for more things, but Derrick Henry, for what he does, is pretty dominant. But give me CMC if I had to pick between the two. Probably he's going to play longer.
Yeah, and Nate, I've gone first on like a lot of these won't be unanimous. Nate, if you want to go first one, so
yeah, that's fine.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, so we don't all say the same thing again. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Well, your fantasy team was named Run CMC.
Yes, I gotta give him a shout out for carrying me to the title last year because nobody else on my team really did that much. But yeah, I think Henry is just too one-dimensional for me. I think obviously you got to factor in what McCaffrey does in the receiving game is he's one of the best to have done that in the last few years on top of what he does in the run game, which is already insane enough. I think the longevity thing is a little bit tricky for me because he does get so many touches that I think like him and Henry are really in the same boat that all their play styles are different. Like he could be at risk of having a shortened career also, getting that many touches. But I just think that his versatility plus he plays in not as good of a situation as Henry does. Henry's got a great O-line with like Taylor Lewan and all those guys in Tennessee, which I think is really underrated. So I got to give McCaffrey the edge here.
I mean, McCaffrey is. You're never going to see Derrick Henry putting up 1,000 rushing yards and 1,000 receiving yards in the same season. So, but I definitely do agree with Nate that the longevity thing, I think, actually is pretty even between them. That and the thing about McCaffrey, well, he is jacked, but he's also a pretty small guy to be an every down running back. So we'll see how it works out. But definitely CMC.
And I agree.
Good one there, Eric. Let's
That's
see
a good
what
hot take
Twitter
there,
thought.
Eric.
Yeah, that's the best analysis I've ever given.
CMC won the Twitter poll 75 to 25. Clean numbers there. So moving on now, we've got another kind of non-sports related question here. So the age-old breakfast time question. If you got to pick between the two, pancakes on Team Waffles.
Wait, well, you went like super robo there.
Sorry. I was saying I'm Team Waffles.
Oh, okay. It's like you got to decide between the two. Well, I'm Waffles. What? Anyway, sorry. Yeah, so I'm also gonna go Team Waffles.
Well, this was definitely the hardest non-sports related one for me because I like them both. I grew up eating waffles all the time, but I think in more recent years, I think now I'm going to have to go Team Pancakes.
I'm going to have to go Waffles here.
Oh, man, I'm a lone wolf.
Yeah, you're the lone wolf, Connor, but
yeah.
I mean, I'll eat, like, both these are good. They're made basically the same way, just in different cooking methods. But yeah, I don't know. The thing with waffles, I guess, you know what you're getting. You can make pancakes. Well, like, okay, I'll quit. Like, like the shape in that it's gonna be divided in 4 with 4 equal parts. Like if you make a pancake, you can make a pancake the size of the whole pan, or you can make the pancake the size of like a little.
Okay.
Like, okay, that's what I meant.
I get it now.
Pancakes come in all shapes and sizes. Like the waffles are in a waffle maker. You know what they're gonna be like. I didn't realize I was gonna be that funny, but I don't know. I guess I like that better. Variety is always good, but yeah, I've just always been a fan of the just how the waffle iron makes the little dimples in them and stuff.
You like the squares?
I like the squares. I'm a simple person, Connor. Don't make fun of me.
Man.
That's all I'm gonna say about waffles now before I say something else weird.
No, in agreement here with all of y'all. I like both of them. They're both really good. You obviously can't go wrong with either one. But I just give a slight edge to waffles. I will say, to piggyback off of Zach's final point, though, I do like the squares, though, because when you put the syrup in, all stays in one place. I like that. And there's this hotel that my parents stayed at when they came to visit me, and the waffle maker makes your waffles in the shape of the state of Texas, which was pretty awesome. Ooh. So I got to actually the hotel that Susan and I went to one time too, when we were in San Antonio, had that as well. So I got to have a Texas shaped waffle, which was pretty awesome. So I liked that as well.
I gotta go with waffles here, just because for me, like, it's the topping advantage. Just because, like, I don't know, I just like, you can put stuff in the pancakes, which is good, but like, I like waffles. You can put blueberries and chocolate chips and syrup, and it like gets in little pockets, and like it's all melty and all that. So I gotta give them the edge in that department.
You can put stuff on top of pancakes too, but
then it like rolls off, and
and then you gotta scoop it up.
Yeah, it's so much work.
So annoying.
These first world problems, guys. They're out of this world.
Yeah. But well, I guess I have to go with pancakes. I'll be the lone wolf on pancakes. Like you guys said, I'll eat either of them. But I think while the squares are good for toppings and syrup, I think it's a bit bad when it comes to butter. Trying to spread butter on waffles is a bit of a pain. It's a lot easier to do it on pancakes, and I also like the fluffiness of pancakes. They just kind of melt in your mouth, whereas if you make a waffle wrong, then it just gets too crunchy, and I'm not a huge fan of that. But like I said, you go either or. They're both good.
Absolutely. Let me check the Twitter poll on that before we move on. Waffles or pancakes? I wonder what Twitter said. They said waffles, 67-33. So kind of like us, a little bit more waffles, but there's always those people that like their pancakes better. Moving on now, we've got.
There's always those people, Connor.
We're gonna talk about some defense now. Show the defenses some love. So
defense wins championships.
Yeah. Cornerbacks here: Gilmore or Ramsey. You know where I'm going with this. Team Gilmore.
Ramsey, right?
Wait, you said yours, Zach?
Yeah,
I did.
Gilmore.
Oh, okay, I didn't catch that. Yeah, Gilmore.
Yeah, I'd have to go Gilmore as much as my dad hates him.
Obviously, you gotta go Gilmore here.
Yeah. I think big advantage you get with Gilmore. They're really talented corners. You can't go wrong with either of their talents. But the separator for me is when you fake a back injury to get forced out of a team. I think that's where I draw the line. So when I've got Gilmore, I know he's getting paid a high contract. He's loving life in New England and all that, but at least he's not going to fake an injury to get himself out of a team. So that's my separator.
Yeah, I mean, and even if there wasn't the whole faking of the back injury thing, the thing about Ramsey that will just drive you nuts is just all the. This is weird because it's hard to say because I don't mind when players smack talk if you do it in the right situation. You know, if it's like before the game starts and you're trying to get in your opponent's head, like I thought that one time when he got AJ Green under his skin so bad that AJ Green like was trying to punch him and all that and got thrown out of the game. It was in the right time because we were winning the game. It was smart to frustrate the opponent and all that. But then you see like what he was doing when he got traded to the Rams when the Ravens beat him like 50-40 or whatever the heck it was, and he's still like smack talking the other team and acting tough like he's gonna go over there and beat somebody up when those people were holding him back as I do the finger thing. Like he was really gonna go over there if that guy didn't get in his way, like that's not when you're getting destroyed, like that's not the time to be running your mouth, just take the L and move on. He doesn't seem to know how to like separate when to do it and when to not. It's like I don't mind a little cockiness if you can handle it in the right way, but he just got to be too much. And so for that, I'm glad he's gone. Whereas Gilmore, it's like he's going to show up, he's going to do his job. And it doesn't mean that Ramsey doesn't. I mean, he is a great player, which is why I still would have liked him to be on the Jags in a way. But Gilmore's going to do his thing and not cry about every little thing. And so because of that, I have to go Gilmore.
Yeah, I mean, I went with Gilmore, like I said, as much as my dad hates him because he used to play for the Bills and he wasn't very good when he played for the Bills. And then he went over to New England and turned into the Defensive Player of the Year. So, yeah. And also because, like you guys said, Stephon Gilmore doesn't fake back injuries or try to start fights with Marcus Peters or any of that stuff. I remember when Eric and I did that episode. I think that was the episode that we did all on our own, the one episode without Zach. And that was like the first thing that we did was we were talking about that, and that Rams like trainer or whatever had to get in between them, and Ramsey's like, and he had to like carry Ramsey away from Marcus Peters. I'm like, really? Like when you're getting carried off the field because you're trying to start fights when you got destroyed like 45-3, like that's not good.
Like I said, it's a good thing those trainers were there because he would have whipped on Marcus Peters.
Totally. He would have totally. Mm-hmm.
It would have been another. That could have been worse than the Myles Garrett thing if a trainer hadn't been.
At least Marcus Peters had the balls to take his helmet off. Ramsey kept his helmet on the whole time.
That's just fighting smart, bro.
All right, Nate, you want to say anything about this debate?
You guys basically touched on it. I mean, aside from the personality and teammate issues, I think Gilmore definitely has been the best cornerback in the NFL for the past couple years. Really, since coming to New England, he's been the best, I think, even better than Ramsey, even strictly on the field. So I don't think there's too much of a debate. here.
Gilmore won the vote 64-36 on Twitter. Yeah. Now we've got the Bosa brothers. So this is the first set of brothers we've got. Both wear 97. Both play in California. I'm gonna go Team Joey.
I feel like they're almost like virtually the same player, but I'm gonna go. Yeah, they're like twins basically. I'm gonna go Team Joey though.
Yeah, I agree. They're pretty much the same player, but I guess since Joey's been there longer, I'll go Team Joey.
I'm gonna go Team Nick on this one.
Okay, so my biggest reason for Joey over Nick is one, he's been doing it longer, and then two, he faces more pressure from the offensive line and offensive blockers and tight ends and stuff than Nick does, because that 49ers defensive line last year was stacked all around. They were rotating guys in and out that were first rounders, whereas the Chargers, they've got Ingram on the other side, he's really good. But other than that, Bosa is the number one man on that defensive line, and I mean Joey Bosa. I should be more specific. But Nick on his defensive line isn't, I think, the best player, so that's why I'm going to go Joey.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, I mean, I agree 100%. That's the main reason why, is just I feel like he doesn't have as much talent around him as Nick does, and so it's a lot harder to face one-on-one blocks when you don't have as much talent on the defensive line that scares the opposing offense. So, but Nick is really good too. I mean, like I said, they're almost like the same person, really. I mean, they are blood related, but but this isn't one where I'm like, oh, it's Joey Bosa by a mile. I mean, it's slight edge to Joey.
I mean, I guess I'll also go with Joey Bosa for another reason, for off the field reasons. You don't see Joey Bosa hasn't gotten in trouble for posting and liking racist and homophobic things on Twitter and Instagram either. So
true.
That's a bonus.
So there's that, and he's also been doing it for longer. So Joey Bosa.
I think I'm picking Nick just strictly off the upside. If I was an NFL GM right now, I would say give me Nick. Bosa, if I was looking for a defensive end, these are the only two options. I would say give me Nick, just because he does have a better overall defense situation in San Francisco. But when you look at what Joey has in the Chargers, he has three straight Pro Bowl appearances out of Melvin Ingram on the other side, which definitely takes some attention away from him. And plus, like, he has been doing it longer, but he hasn't. I don't think that we've really seen him improve over his 4 years. I mean, he's had like 10 sacks, like, between 9 and 11 sacks all 4 years, which is very good. But it's like, I don't think he's taken the next step. Whereas we don't know what Nick will do next year, but I think there's a better chance that he takes a step and becomes, a 15 sack, like, all pro contending type guy. Then I think it's a better chance we see that than we see it with Joey.
Yeah. And on Twitter, guys, Nick won the vote 64-36, according to Twitter. Moving on now, splitting the defense up here with another NFL-related piece. Two young NFL head coaches who have both lost Super Bowls recently. Sean McVay versus Kyle Shanahan. I'm gonna go Team Shanahan.
Team Shanahan.
I'm gonna go Team McVay.
I'm gonna go Team Shanahan.
Yeah, my reason for Team Shanahan is I think he was a lot more creative. I mean, McVay's creative too, but taking the team to the Super Bowl like that. I mean, both teams went to the Super Bowl recently, but I don't know. It's really close, but I like Shanahan. I like what he does with his offense. I think he's just the better. He does better at what he's supposed to do, which is run the team's offense. We saw McVay took a step back this year, which is why I'm going with Shanahan. But it could flip flop if McVay has a better year. But that's really what the jump from Shanahan from last year to this year was pretty remarkable. So he should have been coach of the year. That's why I'm going to go with him.
Yeah, I'll let you go stuck on this one if you'd like.
All right, yeah, I'll go. I'm gonna go with Shanahan just because I think McVay just I don't have any dislike for him personally, but I just think he got vastly overrated off that one season. Like you saw everybody, there was that one coaching carousel where everybody was like, well, this guy coached. He was Kyle Shanahan, he was Sean McVay's like wide receiver coach like 4 years ago. Like, oh, this guy like let's bring him in for a head coaching job. You know what I mean? And I think we saw him in the Super Bowl and he got absolutely like dissected by Bill Belichick. Like he totally like tore apart the best offense in football, and they only scored like a field goal in that Super Bowl. And really after that, like his team totally fell apart. Like it was basically the same roster last year, and that offense looked nothing like it did 2 years ago. And I think teams watched that Super Bowl on tape and said, "Oh, that's how you beat the Rams," and they went out and did it a whole lot last year. And I think they're gonna do it again this year. So I got to give the edge to Shanahan here, just because he gets the benefit of the doubt. We'll see like how he follows up last year, if he can improve and stay fresh and all that. But I got to give him the edge right now.
Yeah, those are great points. I feel like they both had times where they've looked like geniuses, and then other times where it's kind of like, what were they thinking? And I mean, they're obvious, so they're very equal. But with McVay's offense just not seeming to be as good last year when he's supposed to be, this offensive genius, it seems like he hasn't been able to adjust since that Super Bowl loss just quite yet. I know with Todd Gurley being hurt, that obviously, not being the same player, that's been a big mess up for them. But, you have to be able to find ways to adjust. And it seems like he hasn't fully been able to do that. Whereas Shanahan lately, to me, has seemed to be a more creative, coach with his play calling, getting everybody involved and all that type of stuff. And I have to give the edge to him. But at the same time, they both made bad mistakes in their Super Bowls, and so we're just going to see which one can do better going forward. But I give a slight edge to Shanahan.
I mean, I think I would have to stick with McVay just because I think a lot of people forget that, obviously his second season in the LA Rams was like, close to the perfect season. Like they had the number one offense and they made it to the Super Bowl, obviously lost to the New England Patriots. I mean, and I'm not going to knock Sean McVay too bad for getting outcoached by Bill Belichick, because pretty much everybody in the history of the league has gotten outcoached by Bill Belichick. So I'm not going to knock him too hard for that. And yeah, they did take a step back this year, but I do blame that a little bit based on the injuries. And I think the performance of Jared Goff really went down this year. I definitely think some of it was attributed to McVay, but not all of it. So, and I think for Shanahan, I just need to see more out of him, because his other 2 seasons in San Francisco were horrible. I mean, they were losing records. So I need to see more seasons from Kyle Shanahan of winning records and constant postseason success, and, just keep it going. And maybe if Kyle Shanahan, like if the 49ers outplay the Rams again this year, then I will switch my vote to Kyle Shanahan next season.
Yeah. The two can flip flop for sure. Twitter, though, see what they said. If I remember to do a poll, there it is. Shanahan won 75-25 on that poll to McVay. I almost thought in my head to say Macbeth on accident.
Whoops.
Now we've got the Watt brothers here. I didn't include Derek. Apologies to Derek, but TJ versus
He's on the Steelers
JJ
now too.
He is. So I have a strong feeling I know where Connor's gonna go with this, but I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go team TJ with the T.
With the T.
Ooh.
Team TJ as well for me.
Yeah, I'm going Team TJ. This isn't just my Steelers bias either, but I am going Team TJ.
If we're talking right now, I'm definitely going Team TJ.
Yeah, I'll let Connor talk first since he knows TJ the best.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely, if due to the case that we're talking about right now. Because if you're looking at the
Mhm.
overall, I mean, J.J. Watt's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, so you can't argue that. But he's just been so hampered by injuries the past few seasons, and he just hasn't looked like the same player. I mean, he played very limited minutes in those playoff games, or at least the one against the Chiefs. He played very limited minutes. I mean, it was only on like third down that he would actually come in, and even then, like they still kept him out of the game. So, and the fact that T.J. Watt's been putting up ridiculous sack and forced fumble numbers in the past couple of seasons, and I mean, he was obviously they don't really. I don't remember if they released the voting or not, but I'm pretty sure he was second place behind Stephon Gilmore for Defensive Player of the Year this year. So, um, maybe an extra sack or an extra forced fumble would have gotten him that accolade. So I definitely see that happening for him in the future, and he definitely has a much brighter future than JJ does.
Yeah, the thing with JJ is he can't play a full season, which is a problem when it comes to who do you want moving forward. So TJ's younger. Obviously, he's highly supreme talent. We'll see if he reaches the peak that JJ was at, but that I don't know if that'll happen. But right now, moving forward, TJ is going to give you more production. Although JJ, I still fear him, to be honest. He's pretty intimidating. That one time he had like blood on his head or something. Looks crazy, but I'll just sorry, Eric and Connor or Eric and Nate. I'm
No,
gonna
you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
move forward. We'll see. The vote here was JJ. I'm thinking it's all time is why people voted JJ
Yeah,
for
I was
this.
gonna say. Yeah.
67-33 was the vote for that, but the instructions weren't that clear, so my bad. Moving forward, our last NFL picks here, Von Miller or Khalil Mack. I'm going to go Team Miller.
Team Mac.
Team Mac.
Team Miller.
It sounds
Team
like you
Mac
have to say
trucks?
T-Mac.
Miller time.
I'm going Miller here because for Mac anyways, since he really emerged as a superstar, I feel like we haven't heard much from him. I know Von Miller had a down season last year as well, but at least with Von, it seemed like he'd been double teamed for many years and was still leading in sacks and everything. Has a Super Bowl MVP on his resume. I know that we're not taking resumes into account here, but moving forward, I think he's just played in the league longer. I think his skill set is better at the position than Max. Max really good, don't get me wrong, but the Bears, he just kind of gets forgotten. I mean, how bad the Bears have been. So I don't know. We saw Von Miller in the past basically will his team to a Super Bowl win. I just don't see Khalil Mack doing that, and at least I have the chance of that repeating with Miller. I like the chances of Miller just taking his team to the Super Bowl like he did that one time, whereas Mack, I just don't see it, to be honest. But he does get double teamed. It's tough, but I'll take Miller.
Yeah, like I'm pretty much agree with everything Zach said. I think they both obviously had down years last year, but I think Bond just has the history that tells me that I think he's got what it takes to come back up. You know what I mean? Like his track record is much better, and I know that's not what we're basing it off of, but I think I think 8 sacks is like the second worst of his career, whereas Mac like has been kind of I'm just trying to say like I think Matt gets double teamed a lot, but I think so does Vaughn, and he has I would argue less help in Denver than Matt has in Chicago, and I think overall I think Vaughn just has repeatedly taken over games more consistently in his career than Mac does, so I just feel better about Vaughn having a better comeback year next season.
Yeah, I mean, overall between their two careers on if it was an all-time thing, I'm going Von Miller. But if I'm going with like who would I rather have right now, I want to take Mac. He's younger, as you guys said too. I mean, he draws more double teams than Von Miller. I think the way their defensive schemes are, Von Miller has a better chance coming off of the edge, I think, than because he has more of that strict pass rushing role. Obviously, that's Khalil Mack's specialty too. But with where like Khalil Mack lines up on the defensive line, I feel like he's more prone to. I don't know why I'm having such a brain fart on how I'm going to say this, but basically, I guess because of the way he lines up on the defensive line, he's going to be more prone to the double teams. And I don't know. I still feel like Khalil Mack's a really great player. He's who I wanted the Jaguars to draft instead of Blake Bortles, but Jaguars could have had him. But yeah, now I will say since the honor your cat. But I will say ever since he got traded to the Bears, when the Bears gave up 2 first-round picks, he obviously hasn't produced that much value since then, but he's still a valuable asset to a team, and it is hard to say with both of them having down years, but I give Khalil Mack the better chance to turn it around than Miller.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to go with Khalil Mack here just because the fact that obviously some of those years that Von Miller was in Denver had like one of the most ridiculous defenses in the league at that time. I mean, he had DeMarcus Ware on the other side from him. They also had like Danny Trevathan in the middle and Chris Harris, and obviously the secondary doesn't affect the offensive line too much, but like, you know, with Chris Harris and Aqib Talib in coverage, you know, that forces the quarterback to stay back there longer and gives Miller a better chance to get to the quarterback. So I think Khalil Mack, especially when he was in Oakland, he had nothing there to help him out. Oakland was horrible on defense, and Khalil Mack was the only weapon. So I give Mack more credit for being able to do more with less. So, and also I think Khalil Mack has the better future.
All right. Yeah. And the Twitter poll on that said Mack 73-27. Much more on the Mac side, whereas we were split in the middle. We've got one last one to wrap this episode up, guys. And this is this kind of question is a little bit of it draws some reactions out of some people, especially on Twitter. I've noticed some pretty strong reactions. I'm going to try and not do that for you guys, but Android or Apple? I'm going to go Team Android.
Team Apple.
Oh, I thought I was going to be a lone wolf on this, but I guess I'll say Team Apple too.
Team Apple.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm the lone wolf.
I think we're just saying what we all have.
Yeah, I guess. I don't like. I just feel like with Android, I personally just like their layout better. The thing I hate with Apple is they try and take over your life with everything, where they want you to have the phone and the tablet and the AirPods and the credit card and the clothes. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they start having clothes for you to wear. They start a clothing line.
I'm sure they do.
Okay.
I mean, not like they're like interactive, but like they definitely got their own like
interactive clothes. You got your T-shirt.
Your phone will work
guys.
better if you wear this shirt.
Yeah.
It's common. I mean, probably the watches and everything. Like, I feel like they just try and take over your life and monopolize you. And once you get hooked, like they cost way more. It's just a lifestyle I don't want to get on. Whereas like with Android, it's a little bit more open. It's like, okay, we built a great phone for you, and now you have the freedom to do what you want with it. You're not locked into the Apple Music. You can get whatever kind of podcast apps you want easily. You're not locked into the Apple everything. You can get whatever you want. You can connect it with everything. Micro USB. It's so much easier to charge. Those chargers cost way less money and more versatile when it comes to other things. So I think with my lifestyle, and it's a good phone. I mean, the phone I've got's pretty bad, but if I were to compare like the top Apples with the top Androids, I mean, they're cheaper. I think I'd like them better. I think they do more for you. I think they're just easier. And for the longest time too, the Apple screens look pretty small in my opinion. I know they've probably changed that, but I've always been a just better fan of this screen size and everything with the Android. So I'm going Android. Like I said, I don't want to get too raged about this or anything, but yeah, give me the joy.
It sounds like you were like right on the cusp of it, though. Like
Stop myself, man. I stopped.
You contained yourself. Yeah. But no, I picked Apple just because I've been a big fan of them for a while. I will agree with Zach though that for a long time the biggest issue for me with Apple was their screen size. Like a lot of these other companies were making phones with like 5 and 6 inch screens, and iPhones were still like a 3 inch screen or whatever it was, something like that, and that was kind of annoying. But they've finally upgraded that. I mean, they were behind, so that's not an argument for them, but they did finally fix that, and I've just been a fan of them, and I also do have an iPad, so while this is what Zach was saying, like, but I like them being paired together because since I have an iPad already, it's nice to have the iPhone to then go with it, and I can
Nice
just
to
sync
not have
everything.
any competition for your products that you use on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, I can sync the two. I sync everything on the two together. It's not like, oh, I can't use this app or oh, I can't do that. Like, and I've been impressed with the performance of them. A lot of people complain about like iPhones with like the usage rate going down, but like I haven't had that problem with. I had one iPhone for a really long time, and I was still able to use it like normal. So uh, I don't know. I mean, I will say now with like Apple, the one thing that I don't like with Apple that I won't use is I would never buy a Mac. Those are way overpriced, but you can get other stuff at a more reasonable price, and if you do it right. And I'm an Apple guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. I would never buy a Mac, but this isn't a PC versus Mac debate. This is an Android versus Apple debate. So, um, yeah, I mean, honestly, I never really minded the smaller screens, I guess, because like obviously now the iPhone, like I have an iPhone XR, it's a pretty big phone. I was never a huge fan of these huge phones, like the phones that can barely fit in your pocket, and like I know when the Samsung Note first came out, it was just like this big old phone. And I'm like, why do you want that? Like, it's not even gonna fit in your pocket. Like the whole point of these things is that they fit in your pocket, and a Samsung Note's not gonna fit in your pocket. So, I didn't mind the smaller screens. Obviously, I like them when that they're a little bit bigger now, but and honestly, a lot of people like to try and complain about the reliability of Apple phones, but I mean, my mom's had the same iPhone 6 for like 5 years now, and she'll probably have it for another 2 or 3 years as well. So I think the reason why it gets such a bad rap is because the people that buy iPhones are very careless with their phones, and they like drop them in the toilet, or they drop them and crack the screen and all this stuff. So I think that's the reason why they have a bad rap for reliability, is because the people that own them
Yeah.
are really klutzy and clumsy. So, but if you actually take care of your iPhone, then it's going to last a really long time. So, and like I said, it's the same thing with Zach, like with the layout thing. I think I'd have a really hard time getting used to Android layouts at this point. I'm so familiar with the Apple layout, so I'm going to stick with my iPhones.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too with that, like what you were saying, Connor, is that people that like like me, you, and Nate, like we all said Team Apple, but we're probably not like hardcore Apple. I mean, there's people that every year they buy the new iPhone, which I don't know why people do that. Like
Oh no, yeah,
you don't need to
no.
have a new one every year. I don't know why people do that with like either Android or iPhone, like Apple.
Oh
I don't.
yeah, no. Well, especially with the Androids, I feel like those phones come out like every
that's
6 months.
Well, I think that's like an advantage that you have so many options, like between
So many
Samsung
options
and
to waste your
Google.
money.
No, not to waste your money. I mean, the phone I got was $50. Like,
Right. Well, I'm talking more so like the Samsung S, like
or the
whatever.
elite phones. Yeah, the
The
elite
elite
phones. Like,
That,
yeah,
no.
yeah,
I'm not talking about the
yeah.
the cheaper phones. I'm talking about the elite phones. They release they come out with a new Samsung
do.
S like whatever every like 2 months, and I'm like,
Yeah.
really? You're already on the next version? Like what?
It's like 20 or something now.
Yeah. Whereas like iPhone's like barely gotten to 10 now, and Samsung's like, in a couple of years from now we're gonna be seeing the Samsung S30, and it's like, huh?
But I guess just for people that you have more options, I guess to if you're an Apple wanting to go to Android,
That's true.
there's more
You got
flexibility.
Samsung and Motorola and all those other stuff. So
Yeah, so. But Nate,
I guess we'll let Nate talk.
yeah, sorry for cutting you
Yeah, I
off.
mean,
Nate.
you guys basically kind of covered everything I was gonna say about Apple. I mean, I'm not, like Eric said, I'm not a huge fan where I gotta buy the new one each year or anything like that, but I just prefer it. I never really used it Android, so I don't really have a reason to, switch and try it. So yeah, I gotta go Apple.
All right, you guys. That'll end the debates for
Twitter
now.
poll.
Yeah. Oh, Twitter poll. Yeah. Duh. This is a big,
Big.
a big topic here. So Apple won the Twitter poll 57-43. Pretty close.
Ooh, close one.
Yeah. So Apple got the nod there, like it did on our show. But yeah, that's what it comes down to, guys, with these debates. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you stay tuned. I will say this, a little teaser. In the future, we have some really awesome episodes planned. I can't wait to do them. But not gonna say any more. If you're a Clutch Crew Sports diehard from since day one, you might know where we're gonna be going with this. But I won't say anything more. Thanks for listening, guys, and remember, be clutch.
See ya.
See ya.
Peace.